He would come home after a night of drinking, wake up the next morning craving alcohol, and the destructive lifestyle, including gambling, would continue. Tarrant Cross Child was putting the next drink ahead of his wife and children and his job, and he knew it wasn't good. He felt trapped. Tarrant, thanks for being with us on 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go back to your childhood. You're 12 years old, you have a traumatic event happens, and that leads to some destructive patterns in your life.
Yes, my nephew Cameron passed away. I was a man of faith, and I really questioned my faith with God. And later on, my mother would pass away after I had a really terrible argument with my mother. And when she passed away, that really rocked my faith, and I started looking towards drinking and then eventually gambling. That just totally ruined my life.
So before this event happens with your nephew, you had some spiritual connection with God?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I was a believer. I believed in God. I went to church, and once Cameron was going on to surgery, Cameron ended up dying in surgery, so I was really believing for his healing, and that really, like I said, rocked my faith.
So even before you're a teenager, you take your first drink. What were you thinking, and how did that just evolve into something so, destructive?
Well, I figured it felt good at the time because my friends were doing it. So as I started, I didn't mean it to get out of hand. My one little drink, ended up evolving into a lifelong addiction to drinking.
And you mentioned about your mother. You had an argument with her, and it was over what, gambling?
Yes, it was over money. So arguing about money. My mom could call me knowing that I could pray for her. No matter where I was, I would pray for her. But this night was different because my addiction was soon taken over. And when my mom called, I was upset over money. And then when I hung up on her, she ended up dying that night.
Wow, so you carried a lot of guilt?
Yes, so much guilt and shame.
So 12 years old and you start drinking, and maybe you think of it as kind of a casual thing, you just say everybody else is doing it. How did it can just progressively get worse as the years went by?
Yes, it progressively got worse. I'd be a good husband.
Yeah, so eventually you get married, you meet this beautiful lady.
Yeah, and then eventually it just started getting worse and worse. Like I'd be able to, even the Holy Spirit would, tell me that's enough, and then eventually I wouldn't listen, and I would just keep drinking, keep going, and the more I drank, the better I started to feel because of all that guilt and shame, and that was making me feel better.
But you're carrying on what would look from the outside kind of a normal life. You've got a wife, you've got children, you're keeping your job. I mean, when did you just really hit the wall? You knew you were in trouble.
Well, people started to take notice. My family, of course, my friends, my employer, and pretty soon I had less friends. No one was giving me work. My daughter started to take notice, and at this time she was 10 years old. She would stand at the back door crying, not wanting me to leave. She would say, "Dad, please don't leave. Can you stay home?" But just the grip of the addiction overpowered the thought of staying home with my wife and 4 kids. I'd literally move her out of the doorway and set her aside and go out to do my thing.
The addiction was stronger than even the love for your family then at that place, Tarrant?
Yes, it was, because it overpowered the thoughts, because I loved my family. When I left the house, I'd be like, why can't I just stay home? It's stay home, watch a movie with your kids, spend time with your family. I so wanted to do that. I'd be out doing my thing and thinking about that, like, what is it about this alcohol that keeps me out here when I really sincerely desired to be home with my family all night long?
So what happened? What was the point that it became enough? If you don't change, you're probably not going to be around much longer. Tell me about that.
April 20th, 2014, I was sitting at home at my kitchen table, and I was contemplating all the things that I have done to my family, where I lost my business. My family was about to leave me. We're losing our home. No one would give me work. My health was deteriorating.
And you're an athlete, by the way.
Yes, I was an athlete, and then not at this time. So I was an athlete, so that was another part. It was my health. Mm-hmm. So then I decided to take my own life.
And you did some searches on Google of how to tie a knot.
Yes.
You plan to hang yourself.
Yes, I made 2 attempts, both failed. And I'm pretty handy. I know I tied that noose right, that so much that I even Googled to make sure I was tying it right. And I did. I tied it right. It was correct. And it didn't work.
Okay, well, we're going to find out what happened because it didn't work and what you're doing today. And we'll continue our discussion with Tarrant in just a moment. And, I always want to remind you that our prayer lines are open. As you're listening to Tarrant's story, maybe that's you. Maybe you're caught in addiction. Our prayer lines, again, always open, 1-866-273-4444. We'll be back right after this.